Well, welcome back to our final discussion on mental health. And in this segment, we're going to be talking about marriage and family and some of the challenges that marriages and families face. And Kyle, to be honest, we've been talking about this in different places already, but then in this segment, we really want to drill down into some of the real challenges the modern family's facing, and in light of some of the cultural challenges we've been raising, some general ways they can be encouraged and blessed in their parenting and in their marriage. So, what are some common struggles you're seeing families face in your practice right now?
Families are just, it is something that a lot of people share. We all come from one. So it's kind of like, whether we've started our own coming into it. But I can speak from my own family's experience, common struggles, communication, just being able to speak in a way where you can be understood, and it's just so hard.
Yeah.
And when you're parenting, trying to listen to your kid and hear them and understand them, and vice versa, be understood by them. Mm-hmm. Teaching a child how to listen, how to understand, it's just so much work. It's exhausting. So families are just struggling in major ways with communication. Connection is another big one, being able to stay connected to one another, because our world is so disconnecting. You got school over here, you've got athletics over here, you've got all these extracurricular things that you want your kid to experience, and right. Then you're trying to make memories with them and do stuff at home, and family devotions and all. Whether it's just all across the map, the bar keeps going higher and higher, and then we want our kids to get into the right schools, and so you got to prepare for this, and you got to have a well-rounded resume, and you got to get a job, we need you to get a car. The finances, just trying to pay for all of that, mm-hmm. It just becomes a weight. And if anything, COVID's kind of taught us a lot of this stuff really is not necessary. It's going, just have a meal at home with our families and hang out. What a concept. So I think navigating schedules, navigating expectations, so all of that, I don't know how many examples you want me to give.
No, I know we could go deep into that, but communication and busyness, mm-hmm. And it seemed to be some perennial challenges families are facing. The struggle of trying to keep up with everybody around you, and you don't want to fall behind. And that contextually, that does matter. Where we're at in Mansfield, that's definitely the case, where people are constantly feeling the need to, I got to have my kid in this, or they got to be doing that. There's a lot of pressure mm-hmm. That families are feeling. On the parent side, what advice would you give parents about navigating some of these struggles and challenges that they're facing?
Probably if I had to say one thing that I think is the biggest impactor on your children is your marriage. Making sure that the husband and wife relationship is the best you can make that. Because kids start out from the womb assessing you, studying you, and they're trying to take you out. They're trying to split, they're trying to divide and conquer, because they come out of the womb trying to figure out how to be in charge. Mm-hmm. And so they sit quietly back as toddlers, watching and assessing each parent's style. And then by middle school, they're ready to start mounting their attack.
It's kind of an ominous picture you're painting there.
Well, I have 4 children, so I've experienced that firsthand 4 times over. But what they need to be able to push against in those adolescent years is a wall that will not give.
A unified marriage, yeah.
Compassionate, a safe place. Because the best way to launch out into life is from a solid foundation. And when you try to launch from a fluffy chair, you're going to bite it. It's kind of, you need something to spring out onto. Right. And so, and a healthy, vibrant, rich marriage is probably one of the best gifts you can give to your children. So investing in that is, and if I was going to stereotype a lot of American families, the husband will invest in the career and the wife will invest in the children, and they think they're kind of tag teaming it, and it ends up
they're not on the same page.
They're not on the same page because a career can totally suck all the life out of you. And kids can suck all the life out of you. And then there's none left for the marriage.
Wow.
And so when it comes to looking, do we have to have our careers? Yes. Do we have to? No, you don't have to have children, but in a family, that's kind of what we'd like.
Family that have children,
Yes.
they're going to love them and invest in
Yes,
them.
and
Yeah.
so you want to be able to provide for those kids emotionally, financially, spiritually, emotionally, and so there needs to be a sense, but both need to be sharing. The two shall become one flesh,
Right.
not two fleshes acting independently to achieve a goal. And so marriage. So along with that, I really would say oneness. I tell people all the time in marriage, probably one of the first things they hear from me is you're either moving towards oneness in your marriage or you're moving away from it. Our marriages are never staying static. On any given day, the decisions that I'm making and the ways that I'm interacting are either moving me towards oneness or away from oneness. Wow. So I need to take a look at each one of those micro moments and saying, which way did I just step? Which way did I just move? So that I can move my marriage with intentionality towards oneness. And when I see myself moving away, say, what do I need to do to move back? And a healthy marriage will have ebb and flow.
Sure.
There's going to be, tension always, but it's how do we become one flesh?
So just to principalize this, the best way you can help your kids is by having a healthy marriage.
Absolutely.
Starting there, because if you're saying if that's not online, by the teenage years, you really get exposed, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, because they will see where the cracks are.
Yeah.
And they will go for the jugular.
And just to be clear, again, it's an ominous picture, but just to be clear, back to a biblical counselor.
Yes.
You're saying that based on the idea that they are sinners.
Yes.
And that they come into the world worshiping self.
Yep.
And because they worship self, they're not doing that consciously. They're maybe like battle plans being driven tonight, but they are assessing how they can get what they want.
Right.
Which is what all humans do.
Exactly. We just, as adults, we grow up and we continue that strategy.
We just find more subtle, nuanced ways to do it that aren't quite as obvious at times. But sometimes, anyway.
So, yeah. And also to bring this, because I know there's probably a lot of people that are single parents, so they're not in a marriage and they're single parenting.
Good word.
And to be able to be the healthiest individual that you can be as a single parent.
Right.
So taking care of you, creating balance. And I would say pulling people around you.
Yeah.
To help
Community.
with the load.
Yeah.
But yes, that single parents need us to come alongside them, to co-parent and collaborate with them, to give them rest, because they don't have a spouse that they can tap out.
You're in.
Yes. They're there all day long. They're going to the job. They're taking care of the kids. They're keeping the house in order. They're doing the school work. And it is exhausting. Parenting is such hard work. And so again, a spouse, the best you can do is make sure your marriage is intact. And as a single parent, look for people to come around you. Right. And as married people, find single people that you can invest in. Right. So that we can help bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ.
So I want to go back to the teenager thing. You mentioned that the teenage years are where, we talk about how challenging they are. Yeah. But you're kind of implying that part of the reason the teenage years can be challenging is because there may be some cracks in our oneness. There may be some cracks in that wall you talked about. Yep. That notwithstanding, how would you counsel couples who are dealing with a teenager that just feel like, I'm really out of my depth here. I don't know what I'm doing. How do I navigate working with them, guiding them in those teenage years?
Well, I love teenagers, so I need to make that disclaimer. I've been working with teens since I was one, and the whole teenage culture and mindset is something that I just really love. Not all parents love it, and they don't understand it, they don't get it. Right. And I would say, really, it's investment parenting is kind of one of the phrases I've learned along the way, and so it's by the time they're teenagers, you'd still need to do it here. But the more you do it younger, the easier it gets here. Okay. Is connection. Saying, I get you. I understand you. I see you. I hear you. Talk to me about that. Use your words. These are all phrases I've learned from a parenting approach called TBRI, trust-based relational intervention. And I remember when I first went to the training and I was listening to all of its approach. It's founded by Dr. Karen Purvis and David Cross at TCU. And I was going through the training, I was just scripture after scripture after scripture. I was just like, this is a biblically rich minefield that, so it was easy to take, and I just started going home and putting it into practice. And I remember one one time my son looked at me, and he was probably 7 or 8, and he was like, "Can you teach mom to talk to me like that?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" It was, and so he was like, "But I hear you." And so I did. I sat down with my wife, let's learn this together. And she put it into practice in her classroom. And now they have TBRI in classrooms. But it's connection is one of the main components of TBRI. And I would say connection is one of the main components in the Bible. It's all about restoring the connection between God and us. We are God's rebellious teenagers. We are God's children who are trying to figure out how to be gods of our own throne.
Right.
Be our own independent, autonomous self. I don't need you. I don't have to be here. And the truth is, God doesn't need us.
Right.
But he longs for us.
He wants us.
Because he wants to lavish love upon us. He wants to give of himself to us. So really, we need him. And so getting that picture into our home where I need my kids less, but I love them more, and I'm able to pour into them and give them an unconditional, and when they push against me, I'm not threatened by that. It's okay. You try that. I'm still going to be here for you. I'm still going to love you. And the only way to do that is to pull from a source outside of myself. So that learning to see that when I'm parenting my kids, God is parenting me, and that I can see myself in them when I look at the way God's seeing me.
Right.
So how do I want God to respond to me is probably how I should be responding to them in that moment. And when I don't get it right, because I'm not God, I'm going to screw it up regularly. To go back to them and to apologize and to ask for forgiveness, those are powerful moments. I remember I had to do that when my daughter was 4. And to start in there saying, look, the way I just spoke to you was wrong.
Right.
So that my daughter and my sons can see, okay, Dad's made a mistake. Dad screwed up, but Dad fixed it.
Right. And
we were closer because of that. But kids who never see their parents apologize, they never see them own it when they clearly saw it go down. They were watching it and they were like, oh, that was really bad. And if they have siblings, they'll see it go down on their sibling. They're okay, well, I'm going to avoid that, And so they learn different strategies. And so that's what I would say. Be honest, be vulnerable with your kids, listen to them, stay connected to them. And what is it about the way I'm parenting? How is my parenting going to connect me to you? Because God definitely has rules and he has things that we need to follow, but he emphasizes the relationship as a way to bring us into the rules.
Yeah. Well, I want to finish by just talking about the number one thing you said was important for parenting. That's marriage.
Yeah.
You said that the best thing we can do as parents is have strong marriages. Where are you seeing people make the biggest mistakes in marriage? Where are you seeing that show up when they're supposed to be building that oneness, that unity? Where are you seeing those big kind of blind spots or mistakes that couples are making that are leading them to drift away from each other and away from that unity idea?
If I had to narrow it down to the absolute biggest, I would put a bullseye on selfishness and say the sense of self, that I'm entitled to this, I deserve this, I need this, and my spouse should be doing this for me. And they're not, or they're not meeting my expectation or my compliance because it's all about me and my opinion. To me, selfishness undermines oneness, because oneness says I'm you. So if I'm really selfish, I need to be considering your needs greater than my own, because I do serve myself when I serve my spouse.
Right.
And so, Jesus said it very clearly, deny yourself, take up your cross and follow me. And so that selfishness, when not denied, wreaks havoc in our marriage. And so if I had to boil it down to one thing, that's probably the umbrella that I would put all the things we do.
Right. It kind of groups them all together in one place. Okay. Well, I just want you to know, couples and parents, if there are ways that we can assist you and help you, our church stands ready to do that. I know Kyle and Metroplex Counseling, I'm assuming a big part of what you guys do is marriage and family counseling. But I believe one of the themes you've heard consistently from Kyle in our conversations is the importance of connection and connecting with one another, and that through those connection, God works. I've talked a lot about the church, but we believe in investing in our families because we believe it's the church and the family, those two institutions that God's ordained. It's through those kind of places that those relationships where we connect with each other, where the truth of the gospel and the grace of God comes through, one another really come to life. And so it's not lost on me, guys, that the way the enemy attacks most fiercely is in our churches and in our homes. And so if you find yourself struggling with that today, please understand that it's not a surprise, given the fact that God has really gone all in on those two things being the vehicles through which the gospel, I think about the church being where the gospel is going out globally, and the families where the gospel is going out generationally. And so those two places are really, really critical as they work together, and we want to be a kind of church that partners with you families. And so please be on the lookout as we move forward. We have resources, we have ways to help and encourage you and your family as we do this. Thank you so much for being with us together.
Thank you.